Hello. Setting up here on Facebook as well. Hopefully this will all work and we will be live. Let me see. Okay. So I believe, oops, should be. Okay. Hello. I hope that hi. Let me just see if I can make this on. There we go. Hi Lincoln, how are you? Hello everyone joining. Hello. Good to see you all. So today we're going to talk languages, and nice to see you again. I do enjoy these sessions every week. So thank you so much for coming and for bringing your friends and bringing yourselves to make it fun, not just for me, but I hope also for yourselves too, because you get to interact with each other. This is my top that I got actually in Norway. I went to the very top of Norway a few years ago with a few other polyglots. Actually, it was a proper polyglot event. I went with Alex Rawlings, Jan van der Aar, and Emanuele Marini to the north of Norway, to Spitsbergen, and we went to now what's the Longyearbyen, which is the main place you fly into there, and we went up there for a week, and it was very, very nice. It was summertime a few years ago, and it's so far north. If you don't know where this is on the map, if you look at a map of Norway and you see this island right at the top, right into the Arctic Circle, it's very, very far north. It's like a 3-hour flight from Oslo north, and when you get there in summer, it's literally the sun does a little circle in the sky at the very top of the sky all day, and it's absolutely amazing. So if you ever get to go there, I recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and because obviously there's a group of us, it was actually quite doable. At the time, there were the Norwegian flights, which were actually quite reasonable, so it wasn't as expensive to go as you'd think. It was like €150 return from Oslo, which is pretty cheap for that kind of thing, and a lot of fun. So hello to everyone. So Bulgarian, do I like it? Yes, I do speak Bulgarian, and yes, I do like it. I think it's very, very nice. Where is it at? So yeah, so anyway, I got this top because I just saw that the top appears on the feed, and this is from Svalbard Church. It says in Norwegian, Svalbard Kirke, and it's it says in Norwegian, the world's most northerly church. So there's a church there, and I bought, because it's an expensive place to go. So I mean, I don't normally buy many souvenirs, but I thought it was quite cool. It was like €5 to buy this. It was really cheap. And you go into the church, and literally they have things for sale, and you just leave the money in a box. It's all done on trust. It's all very, very sweet. I really liked it. So yeah, I mean, Norway is a beautiful country. Not cheap, but beautiful. Hello to you all joining. Hello. So I see some messages here. A beginner in Dutch. You say I need to skip over a lot of Assimil to get it. So if you're a beginner in Dutch, Assimil for complete beginners. So have you studied languages before? That's the question. Because sometimes, depending on if you're going through it with somebody, depending on how you're doing it, I've known people feel a bit scared in the very, very beginning. They're good courses, the Assimil courses. But let me show you in the very beginning of the Persian book that I have on my table almost every single time we do this now. It starts off with with some Persian, and then it has the translation, and it has how you pronounce it, and it has the MP3s. If you feel confident and happy doing that, go for it. Some people I know don't always feel confident and happy doing that. Dies mooi goed. Chris. So I would say if you don't feel extremely confident with sort of dialogue straight away, then maybe you can look at courses. The one that I used for Dutch was Prisma, and it was called Nederlands voor anderstaligen, it literally means Dutch for foreigners, or for Dutch for speakers of other languages. I think they translated it officially in English as Dutch for foreigners, but it was. I'm just going to see if it still exists actually. Because that was a really good book to start Dutch, because it went through. Yeah, they still have it actually. Prisma, and it's by Prisma. I'll just copy it in if I can find it here, so that you can see if they've got it. Hopefully, this will work. It may have changed a lot because it was a long time. It's a long time since I did it. I've got to be honest. I studied Dutch. The very first time in 2000, so it's a long time ago that I started learning Dutch, and I lived in the Netherlands 2002 to 2004. Dutch, Prisma. I can't see it right now. I'll try and find it, and I'll put it on my. If I can find a picture, just write to me actually. Write me a message on Facebook, and I will see if I can find the actual link, and I'll send you the course that I used. Okay, I'll do that for you. That will hopefully work. If you just find my Speaking Fluently page on Facebook and write a message, I will and just remind me, and I'll send you the link. At least I'll write it down for you. Okay. I'll see if there's a new. Come on, Chris. Very good. So you've got Gail Gargett, yeah. Wow. Unfortunately, I don't speak very much Irish, but I would love to learn more. Salam. Khobi. Okay. Khoban. بمقدونيا. خیلی خوب. ما با زیدان Farsi. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so let me just see what are the questions we have here. Saludos desde Mexico. What's your opinion? Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Todo bien, Juan? What would be the best way to learn German? Depends on what you want to do with German, because it's a big question. When people ask me, what do I do to learn a language? It's a big question because it really depends on what you want to do with the language. I mean, if you want to learn the basics, there are some things you can do. And if you want to get really serious about a language and study just the grammar, or depending on what it's for. So sometimes I do find questions quite difficult about what to recommend exactly without knowing the person or without knowing the individual. And I think that's probably why people work as language coaches and things, because then when you have a personal relationship with somebody and you can have time to talk, and it's easier. But there's a cool thing on YouTube, if you want to look out for it, that helps with German. It's the Extra series, that if you fancy looking at that, Extra German. And if you pop that in, they also have it for French, and I'll just pop it in a few places as well. And they also have it for for French and for Spanish, and I think for English too. So I'll put it in here too, so that everybody can see this. Extra German, French, or Spanish, or even English. And what they have is, it's kind of like, something strange for me there. Okay. On Facebook, it was trying to get me to tag a page, and I don't understand why, just because I wrote English. I'll just write the extra thing in here in case anybody on extra, and you write it with an @ sign at the end. So for German, And I find these quite cool because you can use them in addition to any books that you've got. They're just good for listening to language, really. And you can have the subtitles on so you can read along. And then English too. And they're all on YouTube, so you should be able to find them free of charge. So I'll just pop them in there for you so you can see. And check them out. Let me know what you think of them. I mean, different people like different things. It's always the way whenever it comes to language learning, right? So there's not one thing that's best for everyone, unfortunately. It's many different things. The important thing is that you actually do something yourself every day. That's the important thing, because the more you put into language learning, the more you get out of it. So if you do a couple of hours a week max without looking or reviewing, and that's it, unfortunately, yeah, it's going to be tough. Juan, for business purposes, then if you speak it already, then I would say that then really it'd probably be good to start looking at some podcasts maybe. And I think it's the ARD channel has podcasts. I'm not sure now, but I will have a look and see if I can find something. I personally, because I learned German so long ago, some of the languages that I've learned were so long ago, I don't really know the current resources as well, because it was before the internet. And I learned German in Germany, and then I studied at university as well in Spain. I studied German in Spain at university, and it was at a business school. So I was actually studying business German and Spanish. Well, I was studying in Spanish, and then I did business German. But it was I've got a feeling that they've got some good podcasts out there that will help you get into it. Some really cool things actually for German that I found recently that I really like are Frag ein, and that is if you put into YouTube Frag ein, and then you can see some really cool things, right? So just type into YouTube for German Frag ein, and then, well, not with the dots, I'll just get rid of the dots because I put 3 dots, and then you'll see a list of whatever it is. And then what you can do with this, it's really cool, is it will come up with some things for you to who you'd like to ask, for example. It literally means ask A. So they've got really obscure things like even ask a murderer, ask a billionaire, and it's pretty interesting to listen to that. I mean, I just think as a German speaker who's gone through this process of learning it, I do it more for it's an interesting thing to listen to what the answers are. But I think as a learner, if you're learning German, and there'll be an awful wide range of topics that are dealt with on those channels, and I've just found that when I started, I don't know how I came across it actually. I think it just popped up in my recommended for you, and I think I probably watched some sort of criminal thing on YouTube one evening, and then it said Frag ein Mörder, and then I was like, okay, and I watched it, I clicked on it, and it was actually very, very interesting, and I watched then a few more to see what it was like. They've got one with ask somebody with autism, or ask somebody with all sorts of different things that have happened to them in life. The billionaire one was actually quite interesting as well. Yeah, hello from Brazil. What about Arabic? What would your tips be? Arabic at the moment, Arabic on Link. So Link has Arabic texts, and I've been going through those a lot actually recently. I've spoken to you a bit about Link. It's Steve Kaufman's app that he has. I find it's really good because they've got these, for most of the languages on there, they have 60 stories that build up and use simple or basic vocabulary. And I've been through all 60 now. So I started playing with it in different languages, and I was listening to the Czech one. I listened to Czech lessons from lesson 50 something to 60, because the very basic ones in Czech, I didn't really want to start with those because I'd started them in a few other languages, and so I was getting the stories. But because Czech's a language I studied at university, I wanted to see how far it goes. And actually, lesson 60 is fairly good. I mean, it's definitely around a B1 level. It's it's fairly, yeah, I'd say you end up to kind of like a B1 level when you get to the end of the course. I don't know if it'd say B2, but definitely B1. And there are quite a lot of words actually if you go through the whole thing. And if you go through the whole thing and you know all of the words through the whole thing, that's when I would say you're probably at a B1 level. You go through it and you just understand it and you go through the motions, and then obviously you get what you put in. But I would say that there is definitely the ability to get to a fairly good level to communicate ideas using it. And I've been listening to the Arabic on there, and it's quite interesting to go back and, because they use colloquial Arabic, and I only studied like Fusha, which is MSA Modern Standard Arabic. And with Fusha, I didn't really get very far with communicating in Arabic. It was just literally going through and seeing how the different vocabulary, obviously, but it was looking at the grammar as well quite a lot. And so it didn't really take me very on that journey as much. There are two, I would say that there are definitely two different thoughts on this about Arabic. Some people say that you should always learn MSA first, Modern Standard Arabic first, and then you'll learn a dialect of Arabic. Some people are now starting to say more and more that actually just learn one of the dialects. I mean, we say dialects, but some of the Arabic dialects are quite different. So the Maghrebi dialects of Arabic, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, that type of Arabic is actually very, very different to, say, Lebanese or Syrian or Jordanian, because they're the Levantine form. And okay, maybe because they do speak some French in Lebanon, it might be a bit different, but generally, if you don't speak any French, it's going to be very difficult for you to understand Moroccan Arabic, for example. Whereas everybody in all of the schools learn MSA, Modern Standard Arabic. But that's only the Arabic that they speak on TV or in certain written in newspapers and things like that. But it's actually not on the street that much of a spoken language. And so depending on what your goal is with Arabic, is your goal to explore everything? If so, yes, maybe it's worth doing the Modern Standard Arabic and finding a course for that. If not, then the link course it uses the dialect. So many of the words that you see, it will have written, this is a Levantine word, this is an Egyptian word. It does appear to be a bit mixed. So I'm not sure how that works out in the end, because I've not got to the end of it yet. But I think that in terms of learning how people speak, listening to proper sort of Arabic, it's quite handy. And then, of course, there are definitely for Arabic, there are lots and lots of choices out there. The one that we used at university was Mastering Arabic. That's the one that we used at pretty much every institution that I've studied Arabic at. They use Mastering Arabic, and they've got a Mastering Arabic 1 and 2. And then, of course, Assimil and Teach Yourself and Colloquial all have Arabic courses too. So I'd say have a look and see what you think. Have a look at the books, check them out, see what you think of them. Of course, there are also Arabic courses with the, those sort of Peace Corps type things that you can find online. You can also find online the Free Foreign Service Institute courses, FSI courses. So they're online with all the recordings, and that's free to use, and it's completely legal to download. It's completely open source, so anyone can use those. So so you could check those out as well to see if any of those work for you. They have a very prescribed way of learning languages anyway, the foreign languages, for the Arabic question. I hope some of the information was useful to you all. I found the extra series very useful. Thank you, Ryan. I'm glad it's nice to get feedback on the extra thing. Ahorita, ¿cuándo es un momento para empezar a leer una novela en un idioma que estoy aprendiendo? Pues creo que para leer un libro, para mí, por ejemplo, yo lo hago de vez en cuando. Y así que si veo que va bien, pues está bien. Hay que tomar algo que te guste. Eso es la cosa más importante, porque si te gusta el libro, pues vas a continuar leyendo. Y a lo mejor algo que has leído ya porque ya sabes la historia, entonces no vas a estar como tan agobiado con el rollo de no entiendo lo que están diciendo, no entiendo el sentido, el contexto ni nada. Así que yo creo que está bien leer algo que te guste. Así que para mí, yo tengo, por ejemplo, aquí, tengo un montón de libros de Wonder que me gustan mucho y de vez en cuando sí que leo algo. Ahora mismo no tengo mucho tiempo para leer, la verdad, pero sí que está bien tomar algo así, que realmente que te gusta mucho y ya. Hello from Brazil, Richard. The Arabic, okay, yes, I found the Arabic one. Any tips on understanding French? Okay, spoken in films. French spoken in films. I think there are some languages that, when they're spoken in films, do get a little bit faster, a little bit more complicated to understand because they don't enunciate always the same as well. I would say, if you can, in that, in the modern age now, you can actually have subtitles on, and see if you can hear where the subtitles differ from the spoken word. And you can even take clips of the film and even ask a native speaker, whether it's a friend, whether it's a language partner or a teacher, and ask them to just compare to see what they say exactly. It's quite a good exercise to listen, to train your listening, and also to train if you're trying to write what they're saying. It's quite a good way to sort of train those skills as well. So I would say that would possibly be a good thing. I'd say to focus on short bursts of it though. If you try and do the whole film all at once, it will be a huge job, and also no one's going to want to sit and go through an entire film for you. But if you sit through, say, a scene that's important, then I'd say maybe something like that. Duolingo and Rosetta Stone on Arabic are also pretty useful. Carlos, yeah, I've never really used Rosetta Stone. No, Busu, sorry, so Rosetta Stone. Okay, so Rosetta Stone, no, I haven't used, and I'm not the biggest fan. I've got to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Rosetta Stone, so I misread that. Sorry, but any language course, I'm never going to say anything totally negative about, because I think that it's all good that we're all trying to learn, right? The important thing is that we're doing something positive. My favorites would definitely not be Rosetta Stone, because I found it too slow, and for me it's counterintuitive as an trying to learn like a child, because we have many advantages as adult learners over children to learn languages. So why on earth would I negate the fact that I can read and write, and I've learned many concepts that are abstract, and I can get words very, very quickly in a number of languages and understand them very, very quickly, and just click on pictures. For me, that doesn't make much sense, though that's my own personal opinion, and some people enjoy doing that. I would say it's going to take anyone who does that an inordinate amount of time longer to actually communicate fully in a language than if they were to use all of the skills that they've got as a fully grown and developed adult, or even a teenager. From the age of, I'd say, as soon as you can read and write fairly fluently, I would say that from that age, it makes little sense to be learning things just as a child would, or a baby. But yeah, Busu and Busu, you said Busu and what was the other one? Oh my word! And I've lost it now. I think memorize Duolingo. Yeah. So Duolingo and Busu, yeah, they do Arabic. I've not looked at them. It's good to have that feedback from you, Carlos, because Carlos is a serious language learner. He's also extremely accomplished, and also a great guy. So we know each other from the language events, and he in fact gave a really good talk on Ladino. So check out the Polyglot Conference video for Carlos. He gave a talk in Edinburgh in March, the end of February, start of March. There was a weekend where it crossed over the months, and he gave a talk on Ladino. So do check that out if you ever do, because he's really, really, really good. Let me see if I've got any more questions I can answer easily here. Ciao, tutto bene? conversazione colloquiale in argomenti difficili, il russo, ok, bene, tips, insomma, per capire meglio quello che dicono sulla strada. Io penso così, che va bene veramente ascoltare bene quello che capisci tu. Se c'è, come per esempio, come ho detto, per un film, scrivere qualcosa, cosa che capisci tu, puoi anche registrare quello che dicono, e poi magari anche chiedere a un professore o anche un amico che parla la lingua. E così puoi anche fare un po' di training per scrivere quello che capisci, e poi vedere con una persona nativa, per vedere, o una persona che parla la lingua veramente bene, per vedere se abbia capito o meno. Se lo ha capito bene, quindi va bene per te, perché c'è una risposta positiva. Se non hai capito bene, va bene anche, perché puoi imparare qualcosa della situazione, e puoi anche vedere quello che usano in luogo di una, non so, una struttura più conosciuta per te. A volte con le lingue è una questione di scelta, anche una questione di dialetto, perché anche a casa io parlo macedone con la moglie, però io parlo il macedone, il suo macedone, quindi quando parlo fuori da casa io ho un accento, un dialetto un po' diverso dagli altri qua a Skopje, quindi si vede veramente questa scelta di dialetto, di dioletto, quindi è sempre interessante. Anche se una persona parla bene una lingua, si può sempre imparare qualcosa di nuovo. Sto imparando ok, I'm trying to go through. Con il tedesco, sì, va bene così. Io direi questo anche, ascoltare un po' la radio, perché per ascoltare la radio e imparare bene la radio, perché si può anche registrare un po' quello che dicono a volte, per vedere. Così va bene, Giovanni, penso, perché anche avere l'audio dopo di una conversazione nella strada sulla strada è un po' più difficile, vero? Um, how's everyone? Okay, great. So these languages, yes, it is. Muchas gracias. Cuando me preguntan mejor. Vale. De nada, de nada. Trying to Duolingo. Cool. Okay, I'm going to have a quick look on Facebook, because I've not answered any of the questions on Facebook yet. I'll try and do all of them in turn so that I get to everyone, okay? There are quite a lot of questions coming in. How can I be like you? Mohammed, oh, dearie me. I don't know. Maybe go crazy and being like me. Is that really what you want? Don't wish those things on yourself, Mohammed. Sorry, this is very British sense of humor. We definitely talk this way. So yeah, I mean, Mohammed, if you want to be like me, study lots of languages and see what happens to your brain. You end up laughing at lots of silly things. It's quite fun. So last time you wanted to speak about raising multilingual kids. Was definitely okay. Yes. So raising multilingual kids, Elena. Thank you for reminding me about that. Yeah, that was a question I did get last time, and I did promise that I would come back to it. So raising multilingual children is definitely something that obviously I've been through as the father of a multilingual child. When my daughter was born, we just anybody who doesn't know my story on this, I'll just very quickly tell you what happened. So when my daughter was born, my wife and I speak Macedonian as a home language, and I speak obviously English, and I speak a number of other languages too. And what happened is we decided that, of course, our daughter would need to speak English and Macedonian, because that's obviously her heritage, where her family's from, and she would need to be able to communicate with her family and our friends in both countries. And of course, that was just going to happen anyway. Then what we talked about was whether or not we'd introduce other languages into the family environment, and we decided that actually for me it was very normal to speak French, because I spoke French at a young age. So I wanted to speak French to her. And so what I did when she was born, I spoke to her in English and French from day one. And I used to alternate the languages. So I'd say something in English and then say something in French and carry on doing that. And I did that because as a baby, I basically saw people around me from Wales would speak to the children in Welsh and English and alternate the languages, and it would work quite well, and the children would be speaking both languages fluently. So I thought that that was a good way to go, and I would sing a song in English, then I'd sing either the same song if there was an equivalent in French, or I'd sing another traditional song in French and a traditional song in English that had no French version. And so I would do that constantly. For the first 18 months of her life, I spoke to her in both languages. But by the time she was 1, she could speak English, French, and Macedonian. And so she had 3 languages that we had at home. And she could not only understand them very well, but she could also say 3-word sentences in all 3. And so it was clear that this was not a problem for her, and it was clear that she didn't have any issues whatsoever. And in fact, she was doing well in English, even for a monolingual child. The health visitor comes to you in the UK, where she was born in the UK, and the health visitor comes around in the UK just to check on the development of your baby. And the health visitor didn't know she had other languages, but said, "Oh, her English ability to speak English is quite good for this age, and you know, more than she'd expect." And I said, "Well, she also speaks 2 other languages too," and she was quite surprised. So because of that sort of confirmation from a health expert who goes and sees lots of babies, and because we noticed that she really wasn't bothered about speaking 3 languages, we decided that we would add another language to to her repertoire. And we couldn't decide between German and Spanish, so I decided that I would try both, and we agreed, the 2 of us agreed that we'd try both. And I'd play with her for an hour a day in Spanish and an hour a day in German. And I used to take her out to a different place to do this, not at home. And after 2 months, she actually started using words from both languages in her normal daily life. So it seemed clear that she really liked both languages and didn't have a real preference. So we carried on with both from 16 months onwards. And when she got to 18 months old, she started going to some groups. She was more interactive at that age, and she was running around a lot more. She had little friends. She was meeting up. We were meeting up with the parents, meeting up more with family, and the interactions were more meaningful because she was a little person really then at 18 months who could interact. And so I decided that I would stop speaking English at home, because it was getting a bit difficult having conversations where she would want to respond because she'd understand the first time I said it, right? And to say it in both languages. So I stopped speaking English at home and only spoke French from then on. And kind of that's how it continued, where she had English as an outside language. Play languages were German and Spanish, and then we had French at home and Macedonian at home. So it kind of went on like that really for a couple of years, and then she started nursery school in French. We moved to Skopje at that point, and she went to nursery school in French, and then I switched to English at home because she was getting French all day at school, and it seemed silly for her not to have English. And she was watching a lot of German TV, and she was enjoying the German. And then by the time she got to like 3 or 4, it wasn't such an issue for us to sort of even not worrying about speaking a different language at home, because she'd already kind of got the idea that there were 5 languages. So there are some rules of thumb with kids when they're learning languages. First thing is, don't label the language by its name. It's mummy's language or daddy's language. So you speak like mummy or speak like daddy, or speak like whoever as a caregiver. Because if you label the language German, Spanish, French, they can say I hate German and I hate French and I hate Spanish. They can't say they hate daddy or they hate mummy or they hate the caregiver. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that with children, they don't want to learn lots of languages naturally. Most of them, they want to learn to communicate. They're trying to learn how to produce sort of their thoughts in a way that they can communicate to you, and so a child will naturally choose the easiest option to speak. So especially if they live in a monolingual environment, like the UK or the US, where it's very English heavy. Even though there are pockets of multilingualism and people who speak different languages, there is almost a societal pressure to conform to speaking English, and this happens in pretty much all of the English-speaking countries of the world. It also happens in France and in Italy and in Germany and in Spain to a large degree too, where you're expected to speak the local language to fit in and to thrive, and so especially in those types of countries where they have a very dominant language. The TV is only in that language, the radio is only in that language, the groups are normally only in that language. Then it's very important that you have this in your mind when you're with a child, because child will not naturally choose to speak another language that's different from the rest of society. So I'd say that take that into consideration, and as children get older, as my daughter got older, I needed to make sure that she understood why we were doing this, and she would ask me, why do we speak these languages? Why do we do this differently than other kids? They start noticing these things, and slowly but surely you need to start getting into treating them a little bit as an intelligent being that needs a proper answer. And I found that sometimes when they're very small as well, even a little bit of bribery isn't necessarily bad. So if they pretend that they don't speak the language, then just saying things like, "Oh, well, in the language, what a shame, because I was going to buy you some chocolate," and then it's amazing how quickly they'll say, "Oh ja, Papa, ich verstehe dich," and I understand you. And this is what happened with me, with my daughter. And now she's a teenager. She's 13, and she understands. She understands all 5 languages, and what I found as a sort of a side benefit from this is for her is that she also understands related languages very quickly and very easily. So she has no problem with Serbian, no problem with Bulgarian, no problem with Italian. She's listened to the Portuguese she's been fine with. She's understood Dutch and Afrikaans before now. She knows. She can understand some of the Scandinavian languages to a degree too, and it's not because I've made her learn them. It's because when she's been exposed to them, she can bend her ear quite easily because she speaks 5 languages. So there are added advantages as well to this that sort of we don't always see. But yeah, I mean, in terms of languages, it's a decision as a parent that you give your child a language or languages. Also, we've got to keep in our minds that this isn't the child's choice, and they may not be as big into languages as we are. So they may just want this as a tool for later in life. And as an adult, we know that it's a useful tool, but also they have the right to be their own people, and they have the right to choose the path that they want to go into. So I've never subscribed to the ethos of making my daughter read and write in all of these languages from day one. I just think that it takes a lot of time up to do that. And I think I've never suffered not having spoken some of my languages until I was in my 20s, like German or Macedonian. I didn't speak them until I was in my 20s. And I have had no problem or no issue with going about my daily business, even working in the languages in my life. So how on earth would I be able to say to my daughter, you have to do everything that you've done in one language in all of your languages? It would make no sense. I've met many parents that do want to do that, and I'm kind of against it. I think that you learn subjects in a language or 2 languages, maybe max, if you go to a bilingual school. And why make your child learn everything in every single language? If they're not going to go into science as an adult, they can learn scientific vocabulary as they go along later in life. They don't need to learn it all now. The same for other subjects as well. If they get interested in it, then fine. But if they're not going to be confronted by all this vocabulary all the time. So Bit of a long answer, really, I suppose, to that question about how to raise a multilingual child. They're my thoughts on it anyway, and that's my kind of experience. Hello to everyone joining. I hope if you're joining and you're asking me other questions, I hope that you're finding this useful about with children and languages. I've been doing it for a long time. As I say, my daughter's 13, so I've been through quite a lot of stages of child development with languages. It's one thing when they're very small. It's a completely different thing when they get into once they get past 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's starting to get a bit different because they have to really focus on other school subjects. They can't just be doing languages 100% of the time. As much as we all love languages, there are other things in life that we have to study at school, and there are other things in life that we need to know about. Otherwise, yeah, how do we function as a fully rounded individual in the same way? I think we need to have at least the basics, or an ability to communicate on topics, to have the very fundamental ideas in place, at least in a language or two languages, just so that we can communicate on with other people, because we'll come across them in life, right? And we have to for all sorts of reasons, whether it's because you go to the doctors, the dentist, whether you speak to people who are plumbers or carpenters or bricklayers, or we're talking to people on planes, people you meet socially. You come in contact with many different types of people, and having a nice broad foundation on a number of subjects is useful for that purpose. And then being able to do it in a number of languages is great, of course. But you can always learn through conversations with other people when you meet them, which is cool. So there we go. So yes, how can I be like, okay? I hope that was a good full answer there, Alina. Do let me know if there's any other follow-up questions on raising children. The music, okay. For German, there's a film called Weg. Yeah, Deutsche Welle, that was it. Deutsche Welle website. So for German, it's the Deutsche Welle website. Thank you for that, Marcos. It's exactly right. The Deutsche Welle website has a lot of material on for podcasts and things like that. So yeah, check that out. It's very cool. What languages would you love to study but have not? Oh, there are so many, Victor. There are so many languages that I'd love to study. It's kind of, if I were to show you my the shelves here with all my language books, honestly, there are so many that I would love to study. I've got some here. Actually, I posted a photo on my Instagram, and I have books even that I haven't even opened yet. They're still in their kind of plastic wrappers. So this is one for Inuit. I got this in Canada a few years ago. I'd love to study it. And this is another one that I'd love to study, Quechua. I bought this in London, and yeah, I'd love to get to it. I also have languages that I'd like to improve, like Greek. So this is my This is Greek level C1. I'm nowhere near C1 yet, but I have a book thing when I finally get there. At the moment, I'm kind of at this level with Greek where I can communicate my ideas, and it's fine. I'm trying to slowly but surely, like all of you, I have to take time to talk about different topics to expand my vocabulary, and then also my ability to manipulate the grammar better. It takes time and practice, and a lot of mistakes, and also a lot of laughs as well. So hopefully I'll get to it at some point soon. Jó estét kívánok! Hogy megy a magyar nyelv? Nem megy. It's unfortunately not going anywhere at the moment. I am actually listening to some things in Hungarian at the moment. So I listen to, and I said in the beginning that I've been going through the link stories. They have these 60 stories. So I'm doing that with Hungarian too. It's one of the languages I've chosen to go through. And I'm at lesson, day 14, I think is today, for that. So yeah, and it's interesting to actually do it, because I'm getting reminded of words that I had learnt in Hungarian and had forgotten that I knew. And and also I'm learning a few new words as well, which is cool. Hopefully one day I will be able to speak Hungarian too. I'd love to. So alternate in the same situation. Yeah, so Alina, for the languages with children, yes, it would be in the same situation. So for example, with my daughter, I would like talk about when it was food time and time to eat, dinner time, lunchtime, breakfast, whatever. I would go through everything, talk about what she was eating in English and in French, or in French then in English. And I would do it in both languages. And because both languages sound very different, she picked up very quickly that there were two different things I was saying. That's why it works with English and French, the same way it worked with the people I observed speaking Welsh and English. They sound so different that a child will internally, they will understand that the two sound systems are different, the grammatical structures are different, and children automatically pick up on this type of stuff. And if you're not mixing the languages together, which I don't do, then they're not going to do it either. So they do end up with two languages separately, or separate languages. I know that's kind of it's not the most common way of doing it, but it does work because I've seen it work many times in society, and I've now got personal experience of it working as well. My daughter does not mix French with English at all. She's been through phases where she has, but only like the odd word, you know. But she sometimes mixes some Macedonian words in with French or English, or the other way around as well, and that's normal until they sort of really separate them out. But that's again not the end of the world for them to do that. I mean, as monolingual speakers, people will get things wrong in one language, let alone two or three or four or five. So it's really not the end of the world. Okay, I used to Russian and German as a child. The books in parallel for 1 hour and then 1 hour the other. Yeah, that's a really cool way. Reading books and stuff. Fortunately, my daughter with reading at the moment is we're on school holidays, and the computer is definitely the thing that's winning. She's interested in computers and programming and how games work and things, and playing them particularly. But kids will be kids, and they need to have downtime and fun and playtime as well. They need to learn social interactions. They've got so many things to learn, these different ages. Hola, ¿qué tal, Sandra? ¿Está bien? Desde Exeter, en los Estados Unidos. ¿Qué tal? ¿Todo bien? ¿Qué tal por ahí? Hope you still remember words in in Creole from Cape Verde. I taught you back in 2014. Nelvino, you're gonna have to give me another lesson. I want another update, Nelvino. I need more Cape Verdean Creole, and I need lessons. You're gonna have to hit me up with lessons now, because I'm clearly going to embarrass myself by saying I don't remember very much anymore. So you can't leave me at that. You're going to have to help me. Nice to see you, by the way. It's been ages since I last saw you. How many languages do I speak? Oh, I don't know, gazillion and one. I don't know. It sounds weird to say that, but and a lot of people into lots of languages do tend to say it's a difficult question to answer. How many languages do you speak? And the reason I don't know how to answer that easily is because I tend to leave whether or not I speak a language to the person listening to me. If you think I speak your language, fantastic. The next person might say I speak it really badly. And if you don't believe me, look at any of the comments in any of my videos. So the first video I made on YouTube, was it 12 years ago now? It's a long time ago. People didn't even agree if I speak Spanish. And someone will say, you speak amazing Spanish like a native. And then someone will say, can't understand the word you're saying in Spanish. And it's weird for me because I studied in Spain as a Spanish native level, so I had to be at a very high level of Spanish to study. I studied business in Spanish with accountancy, contabilidad. What's that in English? Accounting. And I studied all of these things and marketing and all this stuff in Spanish. So it was very weird for me to read those comments, and I just kind of decided in the end, everyone's entitled to their opinion. It's kind of like, what you find pretty, or what you find tasty, or what you like, what you don't like, these kinds of things, you can't really agree. You just have to agree to disagree that we're all different. And so if somebody says that I speak amazing Hebrew, that's very sweet. I personally don't agree. But if you want to say that I speak Hebrew, great. I would say that I speak a little bit of Hebrew. There are a number of languages I speak a little bit of now. So like I speak a little tiny weeny bit of Hungarian. If I say I don't speak any Hungarian, it's also not true, because then if he's with me and they hear me say words in Hungarian, or that I know some really odd words in Hungarian that I remember from when I studied it, and then people say, well, why did you say you don't speak Hungarian when you do? Are you lying to me? So I feel it feels very difficult to answer the question, because I can seem like I'm lying either way. And so I just say, you decide. I've studied maybe over 50 languages, and that's probably as far as I can comment on the languages I've studied. I really can. Hi, Peggy. Nice to see you. Let's see. Did you ask a question? I'm trying to see if you asked a question. I can't see anything at the moment. Okay. Are most YouTube polyglots real? And how can we tell? Honestly, you can't tell. On YouTube, you can't tell. I've met a number of people who speak a number of languages well, but you can't tell on YouTube. People who, I mean, people can basically read from a script. They could just do it like that, or they just know a lot of the basic phrases and they can say it quite quickly and naturally, and maybe with a very good accent. You can fake a lot of things in life, right? You can fake knowing things, and languages too. I mean, I could be a fake. Who knows? I could be a fake, but for me personally, that doesn't really matter. It honestly doesn't matter, because even if I were a fake, or somebody else were a fake, the thing that I think is important is that the people out there making these videos on YouTube, whether or not they can really speak the language, as we say, or they're real polyglots, whatever that means, the fact is that they're showing that they're doing something positive with their time. They're learning languages, and they're trying to understand a new culture, and use a new set of people, and so if they're putting that out there as content that people enjoy and find entertaining, and people engage with, then as far as I'm concerned, they're not doing a bad thing. If, for example, they can or can't speak a language, and how well they can or can't speak certain languages, if somebody's trying to employ them, they're going to test them. So I mean, for jobs that I've been tested in up to 14 languages for some jobs. And look, I mean, they do it sometimes to see if I'm lying, and sometimes because I actually need a number of them. So I mean, the most languages I've used on a project has been 14. At the moment, actually, there's a project that potentially I could use more on. That I'm not working actively on it myself, but I could be asked to comment on up to about 20 or so languages that I speak or have studied, and so it's super difficult to say what's real, what's not real. But yeah, I mean, follow who you think, who you like, who resonates with you. There are many great people out there, and most of the people that I meet, I'll be honest with you, at any of the events, like the Polyglot Conference, which is my own event, or whether it's the gathering, Polyglot Gathering, or whether it's Langfest, or whether it's the language event, I've got to say that the people have been very nice. I've spoken to a number of them, many of the very notorious, people who are sort of well known on YouTube for being polyglots or language enthusiasts. I've met a number of them and spoken to a number of them, or at least written to a number of them, and yeah, they've all been very nice. The one I haven't met, who's probably the most well known, is Moses. I haven't met him in person, but I have spoken to him on Skype before, and I like the guy. What can I say? I like the guy. And I've also I get on well with Benny. I get on well with Steve. I get on well with Luca. I get on well with Judith Maya. I get on well with Lindy. I get on well with a lot of these people that you see out there. You know that we're all friends, and I like that we're friends. You know, and when I go back to different places, so when I went to the UK once, I wrote to Lindsay from Lindsay Does Languages, Lindsay Williams, and I just said, I'm going to be passing through Milton Keynes. I'd love to see you and have a coffee. And I knew she was in the area, and we met up for a coffee with, yeah, with actually another friend of ours and her husband, Tita, who's actually, she's done a presentation. She's not really on YouTube as such as a polyglot, but she did a presentation at the Polyglot conference with her sister in Reykjavik, and met up all together, the four of us, and it was very, very nice. And I like that I can do that. And I spoke to Luca a couple of weeks ago. We had a call just to sort of talk to each other and catch up. And I've written to Paul, who's Lang Focus. We've had a nice set of exchanges, and they all seem like really nice people. So yeah, it's hard to say. Real, not real. Yeah, they're all real in the fact that they all do the language thing. If you want to know who I found really, really impressive, like super, super impressive, for me, Emanuele Marini always stands out. He's just great. He's a great guy. I mean, I really like him. But his language ability, and the thing is, he doesn't like speaking English, and we've never spoken English. We normally speak Serbian and Macedonian, but he speaks a number of languages to a very, very high level. And what's impressive with him particularly is that he speaks a number of Slavic languages very, very well, which is not an easy thing to do. And then he's done like C1 or C2 exams in Polish, in Russian, in Greek, and which is not easy to do. I mean, to someone to say that they speak a language to a level, but to actually pass the official exams in like Greek, for example, is not easy. So yeah, I mean, there are people like that. There are others as well that stand out, and I could go on and on. I could do an entire hour just talking about the people that I've met and how impressive they are. I just like them as people, and I find them inspiring, and I feel very proud and honoured to have them as friends. And I'm glad that they're out there, hopefully inspiring you again as well, because that's the name of the game, so that we inspire each other and that we motivate each other and that we ask each other questions and that we interact. And this is kind of why I started doing these lives, because it gives us a way to sort of talk to each other. Okay, but unfortunately, I mean, my time is limited, so I find it very difficult to reply to all of the comments that are on videos. But this way I can at least get to questions, and it's in a video, and if somebody wants to look through, yeah. Oh, thank you very much. That's very sweet. Luca and I are part of the Language Learning Revolution. Yeah, Luca's nice. I call him my Italian bear. Yeah. If you know Macedonian, then you would know one more language, Bulgarian. Yeah. So I speak Bulgarian as well. I studied Bulgarian as a separate language. So yeah, I speak both Macedonian and Bulgarian. I love Bulgarian, actually. I think it's a beautiful language, and I really enjoy speaking it, and I really enjoy listening to it. Yeah. You're not familiar with the guy I mentioned. The guy I mentioned is Emanuele Marini. So I'll try and write it. Emanuele Marini. He's Italian, but he's really, really good at a lot of languages. There's a video of him. You can see him in a few videos, but he doesn't make YouTube videos as such. He's been in a few interviews. He's given talks as well. I started learning languages, Fatih, when I was about 5. That's when I started getting into like accents, dialects, and picking up language books and stuff, and had French at school at a very young age. So that's kind of how it went. And I have, do you think you need to generalize hardcore grunge? So yeah, you need to know, I got a question there about from Razi about grammar and vocabulary. It basically, the more input you get, the grammar starts to fit together. But learning it in natural context makes most sense, because if you want to communicate in the language, it's not Latin. Then you're not learning sort of just set rules and set paradigms. You need to learn the language in context. So the input and practice, making lots of mistakes, is really, really important. Unfortunately, I've got to the end of my time. I know that there are a number of other questions that you've got there that I would love to answer more. Feel free to reach out to me and let me know any topics you'd like me to take on. Like today, we took on teaching children languages. If there are any other topics like that you would like me to talk about, then I'm very, very happy to answer them. Until next time, I will see you a week again today. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you taking the time and your support, for being here with me, and for all of your questions and your patience as I go through the questions too. All the best. Bye-bye.